It's your girl, the Grownwomangamer, coming at you today with another fire talk back. I'm here today with Sister Fate. Sister Fate, you want to say what's up?
Hey, what's up? How are you guys?
Awesome. So we're gonna be talking about The Last Dance, particularly one part of episode 5. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you guys so much for listening to this video, listening to our conversation today. Please like this video, comment. Do not forget to subscribe. We are so close to 100 subscribers. And please follow me on Twitch. I'm super close to getting 50 subscribers on Twitch. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at Grownwomangamer on all socials. I appreciate you guys so much. So I'm just gonna jump right in and introduce the topic. I've been watching every single episode of The Last Dance, just like you probably have been if you're listening to this talk back. And there was one part in episode 5 that just kind of hit me a little bit, and it's touching on something that I had already kind of felt a little bit. Um, Michael Jordan was questioned about a few comments that he made in light of two things. One, there was a black politician who was running for office in North Carolina. He would have been the first black man to occupy the position if he had won that election. And he was going up against Jesse Helms, notorious racist. And Michael Jordan's mother, if you guys don't know, Michael Jordan is originally from North Carolina. He played in North Carolina. Everybody knows that. And his mom wanted him to do a PSA on behalf of this black politician. His last name was Gant. And Michael Jordan did not want to do it. And he, in fact, did not do it, although he did make a financial contribution to the man's campaign. And when questioned, and let's just give a context for this. He was, I guess, on the bus. He was in a very relaxed setting. He said, "Republicans buy sneakers too." Um, Subsequently, Gant lost to Jesse Helms, who of course gloated and said something racist in his, I think when he was giving his little campaign speech at the end and accepting the fact that he won. And Michael Jordan has been criticized for this, and let's be honest, other moments in his career, both as a basketball player and as a businessman, for not taking a stronger stand when it comes to social justice issues, and let's just be more specific to issues facing the African American communities in this country. So today we're going to talk about that. We're going to unpack that a little bit, and just share our thoughts on that. And we may talk about some peripheral things within the documentary, but that'll be our focus. So, uh, what are your thoughts? You watched the clip. We literally just watched it about 15 minutes ago, just so we can kind of refamiliarize ourselves with it. What were your initial reactions or thoughts?
I mean, I don't remember the backlash that Jordan got back in the day. I mean, I'm old enough to remember it, but I just don't remember it being an issue because I never bought Jordan shoes when I was a kid, or my parents didn't. And basketball was fun to watch, but it wasn't something that was kind of something that I didn't like grow up in the urban areas where maybe it was something bigger. Um, but with all that said, uh, I think everyone has a right to do what they have to do for themselves, right? At the end of the day, and I believe in my heart of hearts, I'm thinking Jordan. I don't know. People are wanting to make him care about black people per se, but I think that he was interested in building his career, and he was not interested in being a politician or an activist or anybody who might be an advocate for black people. I think that at the end of the day, he thought his position and his success did black people good. And there are a lot of celebrities and, athletes that probably think that way. Like, I don't have to do much other than not get into trouble, not get into too much trouble, and just be, some type of role model for black business or for success with a black face in general. And even to this day, Michael Jordan seems very, I don't know if the word's indignant, but he seems very uh, like he has no regrets, no apologies. Um, and it seems like he's probably a very stubborn individual, so he's not going to change on his feelings about it. He defends a lot of what he did back in the day because he probably hasn't changed that much at the end. So, I mean, maybe on his deathbed he'll be different, but right now he's sticking to the story, and the story is, hey, you know what? I'm not an activist. I'm just somebody who is there to make money, possibly. I don't know. And that's his right. I think that the black community should not necessarily look at these celebrities and these athletes as role models. Um, I think that it's fine to enjoy music. It's fine to enjoy watching people play, etc. But if you're really looking at these people to be the change that you need to be or you need in your life, you're going to be always disappointed. So I think that at the end of the day, you need to go ahead and you need to be that change for yourself. I don't want to hear Michael Jordan talk about politics, especially if he's not knowledgeable on it. I'd rather hear, you know, the experts talk about it, but that's just me.
So my initial reaction, I have to admit, is based in a little bit more history in terms of kind of trying to work through this um, inner conflict I have about Michael Jordan. When I grew up, basketball, as I've said many times on this channel, was my primary focus as a teenager. Um, shouldn't have been because I was too short really to care that much about basketball, but I loved the basketball. It was a part of my daily life, and I absolutely idolized Michael Jordan. When all of the things that we're seeing in this documentary were happening, I was in high school, and I was playing basketball, like I said, almost every day, or working towards playing basketball if I was playing other sports to get in shape to play basketball. And I saw Michael Jordan do these things on the basketball court that really blew my mind. Some of the things that are coming back up in this documentary, and in watching them, the same tears that welled up in my eyes as a child are welling up in me as an adult, especially as I think back on myself as an innocent child watching him. And I love Michael Jordan as a basketball player. The love that he has for basketball, it really resonated within me as a teenager and as a young person, and it still resonates within me to this day. So to be critical of him as I get older, it's challenging because it does not for one moment discount how much I love him as a basketball player. So before I get to my thoughts, which are different from Sister Faith's, I just want to preface it by saying that and I'm not saying it to qualify what I'm about to say, but I'm saying it because these two things are true within me. Number one, this sincere love and admiration that I have for him as a basketball player, and a deep appreciation for the challenges that he faced during that time in his life, and how I know there are very few of us who could weather the storms he had to weather. Because I don't drink the Kool-Aid. If just because someone's rich doesn't mean that they aren't going through things. And sometimes, as an African American, having the level of wealth that he had can create problems for you that you might not have faced if you didn't have that wealth. But my so now I'm going to get to my reaction specifically to the statement that he made. So let's talk a little bit about the challenges of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has consistently throughout his career as a ball player and as a businessman and just as a figure, a public figure, been firm in his choice to not speak publicly about social justice issues. There may have been a few moments or in his career, and some people bring it up. I think there was a moment in the last 10 years where there was an incident of police brutality, and he very matter of factly and kind of succinctly spoke against that when questioned about it. But he has not been like these athletes, Paul Robeson, Muhammad Ali, Arthur Ashe, Jackie Robinson. And I'm even going to include LeBron James in that, although I wouldn't necessarily put LeBron James on the same level as those people that I just mentioned. He has not said, or he has not shown through his choices that he's ready and willing to leverage his platform to bring awareness to issues that are facing people that are either oppressed, marginalized, or being systematically targeted. Although he is an African American man whose presence in the world and accolades in this world and achievements in this world are directly linked to the sacrifices made by those people that I just mentioned. Those people sacrificed financially, personally, and some of them even sacrificed with their own life in order for there to be a Michael Jordan. So for Michael Jordan to use Sister Faith's word, to indignantly state, I'm not an activist. If you're looking for that, go elsewhere. To me, does hint at a sort of disrespect, carelessness, indifference that I just do not respect. And we cannot just kind of breeze over that. And I'm also going to say that I really believe with everything in me that when people forget about the material contributions that Michael Jordan made to the game of basketball, what will be left is the contributions that he made to humanity. And the footnote is going to be Michael Jordan donated $56 to $100 million to charitable causes. That's great. And I'm not trying to belittle the significance or impact of that financial contribution, but he donates to Republicans and Democrats all in the same breath. He donates to police funds and Black Lives Matter all in the same breath. So he's not choosing a side. He isn't with us. He's made it very clear, I'm not with you. I may be for you, but maybe. You don't know if I'm for you or not, but please continue. Buy my sneakers. Kill each other over my sneakers. I'll charge you 10 times. No, let's really get into it. 70 times what the sneakers are worth. He doesn't care. And that is, well, no, let me reel it in. Let's temper that. Maybe he does care, but he's not willing to risk anything to allow whatever his real thoughts and feelings are about some of these social justice issues and some of these things that happen in the world to he's not willing to risk anything. And to me that is really sad because the man is a billionaire. I think he's worth like $1.4 billion. He's the fourth richest black man in the world. And he has nothing to lose at this point. He could have revised. He had a moment in that documentary where he could have revised what he did back then, and he chose not to do it. He chose to hold his nuts, for lack of a better expression, and double down. And I'm sorry, I just don't respect that.
But why would he have changed any of his statement? If you look at this documentary, he tells stories. He had the cameras kind of following him throughout his career. He really hasn't changed very much. If he's changed, maybe he's a better father, or maybe he's a better husband than he was back in the day. But at the end of the day, we'll never really know all that unless we talk to his wife or his children. But my point is the way that this documentary is set up, it's kind of like, here are the most crucial and controversial moments of your career. Explain more about it. And the way that Jordan seems to be is almost like a man on trial. He is almost defending himself and trying to be trying to explain away and stick with a story. It doesn't show an evolved man to me. It shows a person who is, like I said, stubborn. And let me get a little deeper than that. I really feel that the chip on his shoulder is not about representing black people. I think that he has a deeper chip on his shoulder in a secret type of way that a lot of black men do have. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like I got to stick it to the man. And the only way in this capitalist society with white dominance to do that is to make as much money or more than them, and to almost put it in their face and to show them how far they've gotten. And also, since he knows from day one he's being used to bring billions of dollars into this NBA, into Nike, into all these different things, he's like, I'm going to get my piece of the pie. And I don't care who I have to step on or not talk to or not advocate for in order to do that. Because ultimately, getting my piece of the pie is the ultimate FU to the man. And I think that that's his approach. The way he played was a work of art.
Amazing.
Right?
Genius, virtuoso level basketball.
But he also took it to the next level. And he wanted to be the best, and he was the best.
You could say he is the best. He still is the best.
And I think that he thought that through his play he'd be able to do what he set out to do, which he did. But then he also became a businessman, and the money rolled in, and he learned the rules pretty quickly. Don't rock the boat. Don't advocate for poor people.
Don't be controversial.
Don't be controversial. Don't get into the quote unquote race stuff too much. Somebody told him that, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a white person.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was his father, who was a banker, who worked in a white man's world his whole career, and said, this is how you get along and make it in this world. It could have been if it's his own family.
So whoever it was, he decided to stick with that. And like I said, I can't necessarily fault him for doing so because it was beneficial for him. But yeah, there's a lot of bodies left in the wake of what he did in terms of not advocating for people. Yes, he's gonna have a lot of criticism, but he doesn't care. He does not. I think that his character is, even though he's given a lot of money away, you can also argue that, it's a nice tax break for him as his money grows. So does he really care? Does he secretly care and that's why he's giving the money? Or is he doing what rich people do, which is philanthropy, in order to make sure that their taxes are right or that they don't have to pay taxes or what have you? So at the end of the day, I don't know. I keep saying at the end of the day, but I do feel that his character is probably selfish. He's probably a selfish guy. He doesn't necessarily care about any group of people other than probably his close family, and he's a capitalist through and through. He likes money. He gambles money. He enjoys probably looking at his bank account quite often. He likes to invest. He likes to make money moves, as they say. So this is the way he thinks he should conduct his business. And let's keep it real. Black people are the bottom caste of this society. And when I say black people, I'm talking about descendants of slaves. So when you align yourself with the bottom caste, it doesn't always behoove you to do so based on capitalism and white supremacy. It just doesn't, that's just what. So that's why a lot of these guys, quote unquote, sell out or don't advocate or say, hey, the most stupidest thing. Some people go even deeper and put people down. Like Kanye will say things like slavery was a choice. Like he decided to go the extra mile just to try to rock the boat. But you see how some people are. Some folks are tools for white supremacy, and some just straddle the fence.
Yeah.
So I consider Jordan as somebody, not necessarily a tool, but he definitely straddles the fence in terms of I'm going to make the most money I can, because even the racists are going to buy my shoes. Even the poor kids are going to kill themselves over my shoes. At the end of the day, did the check clear?
I hear you, and I'm not disputing what you're saying, but I'm just thinking about this moment. So let's go back to 1990 when this happened. In 1990, Michael Jordan was in his 20s. He was a young black man at the top of his profession who was making millions of dollars. And he had contractual agreements to Nike that at that time were worth millions. And everybody wanted a pair of Jordans, but let's be honest, back then, if Michael Jordan made the wrong move, there's a possibility that he would have lost all of that. And there were a lot of things going on in the background as far as his gambling, even ties to the mafia, which people kind of talk about nowadays, the women, the whole thing. There were things going on in the background that were not in alignment with the image that Nike and the whole Jordan brand was trying to sell to people, right? So when people ask him to come out and say something political, he might have felt, if I do this, that I'm truly risking everything that I'm trying to build here, and I could create enemies of people who will literally try to tear me down, because there were already people working towards that. There were people in the media, people in the background who didn't really like him, being that he was a black man who was confident, wealthy, rich, and kind of, I'm not going to say he was an asshole. I'm going to say he was somebody who just had a level of confidence in himself that could rub some people the wrong way. I'm just going to, you guys can read through that. So at the time in his 20s, I could even understand how, with all of the things that he had to consider, he would say, you know what, I'll give this man some money. I hope he wins. He could even think to himself, I hope he wins. My mom asked me to do this. I'm going to make a compromise, but I'm not going to come out publicly and say anything because I could see the fallout for me. And in the 90s, the fallout for him would be different than whatever LeBron James loses in 2020, because it's a different time. It's 30 years later, right? Now, today, in 2020, when Michael Jordan's sitting in his $1 million estate with his cigar that would cost several $100s and 75-year aged brandy or whiskey, whatever he's drinking, what does he really have to lose by having just a little bit of humility and saying, you know what, when I look back on that, I see that in the level of impact societally that I had at the time, of the level of influence and power that I had I done that PSA, that would have affected a lot of people's lives in a positive way. And it's something that if I could go back now and think about doing it, I would have at least taken a second thought. As opposed to saying, I'm doubling down. Republicans buy sneakers, and I'm not an activist, I'm not a politician, but guess what? If all of the black athletes who were the first in their field, including the first brother to bounce a ball on the hardwood, had taken the stance that he takes even to this day, he might not even be in the role that he's in. It took a lot of people making major sacrifices within their careers, within their finances. Their families made sacrifices. They were literally targeted with the threat of death and violence at every turn in their sport. And I'm not just talking about black people in general. I'm talking about within the context of their sport. For Michael Jordan to feel comfortable enough to even do the things that he was able to do. So it is flippant disregard of that. I am not cool with it. And he has, at this point, given that he's approaching the $2 billion mark, what does he have to lose? Do you think that in 2020, in the social justice warrior climate that we live in, the Twitter everybody says anything climate that we live in, for him to have a modicum of humility to take this opportunity to address it in a way that's different and evolved, to use your word, then what would he lose now?
His pride. He's a prideful, selfish man. We can't put, I mean, he has not gotten to the point in his life where he's had some type of reality check about the people that he's may have hurt along the way to on his climb, evidently. So he loses, probably he sits there and thinks, I'm saving face by sticking, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. And I mean, I have this lackadaisical kind of approach to it because, frankly, I couldn't give a damn.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, people are going to, and he knows that too, because at the end of the day, people are going to love him still. They're still going to call him the GOAT. They're still going to buy his shoes. They're still selling the same shoe in 2020 that they were selling in 1984. And how about for
3 times, 4 times, 5 times more than they were selling it for in 1984? Shoot.
So people are, the only thing I think that's different is that people aren't killing themselves over it, but maybe they are. I don't know.
People are still killing.
Evidently, those stimulus checks were burning a hole in some of these people's.
You saw the people lining up in Georgia with the coronavirus.
They could give a good goddamn.
Trying to buy those new sneakers that came out, 15, 20 years ago, and they're not new sneakers. They're just recycling the same old shoes that he was wearing back in the day.
So my point is if black people were so upset at him not endorsing this politician at the time, and they felt like, oh my God, I can't believe he said Republicans buy shoes too, then guess what? Boycott the shoe. But nobody's going to do that because it's dope and they love him and they love Mike.
But there are black people out there who will not buy Jordans, largely due to the fact. So I just want to, I am interrupting you, I apologize, but I'm just going to say there are black people and people of other races who don't and will not purchase Jordan brand sneakers because of their feelings about his lack of public concern for these social justice issues impacting the very people that have made him wealthy.
Well, I'm willing to bet those people are few and far in between. And all I'm saying is if, just like child support, I hate to say it, they want to hit people in the pocket to shame them into being better men or better fathers or what have you. At the end of the day, it's like, are you going to, you got to hit Jordan in the pocket for him to understand the severity of how you feel.
Or maybe just the impact of his indifference. Although, let me let you finish your thought.
No, I'm just saying that someone like him only responds to money or responds to some type of isolation, oh, you're not allowed to be in our club anymore. That's the type of person that he seems to be. So if you take away his access, or if you take away his money, then he might wake up. And but like for instance, I saw something about him and his wife, Juanita, at the time, about how they would have a post-nuptial agreement, and they went through, their lawyers were going back and forth when they first got married with all these different types of agreements, and because she wasn't playing. And then he had some type of affair 3 months into his marriage, and he told the lady he had an affair with that he and Juanita was a business decision. He feels like she's my business manager. You know, Juanita got half, right? That hit him in the pocket. He had to acknowledge that she was a good mother, that she held things down throughout his entire career and through his infidelities and everything else. So my point is he seems to only respond to those types of base actions against him. So maybe if people are so upset and they want to shame him, you can't shame him with words. You have to shame him in this pocket.
I don't disagree with that. The one thing that I will say, I mean, I don't I don't think that Michael Jordan doesn't care. I think he does care, but I think that he's not courageous enough to risk any loss to himself.
And that's the issue.
So
There
it's
is
not
no
only,
risk right now. At this point, he's
but
rich as
yeah,
all get out.
that's the point I'm trying to make now. Back then in his 20s, I can't imagine being a 24, 25, 26, 27, even a 28 or 29-year-old young man who's completely insulated from the world. So you're like a child because you're dealing with real grown-up stuff, but because of the money and the resources and the power that protect you, any type of conflict in your life, let's be honest, it's handled by someone other than you. Either your wife is handling it, the coaches are handling it, the managers are handling it, the lawyers are handling it, the accountants are handling it. All you need to do is make sure you show up, can lace with those sneakers, and play this game that's going to be a gateway for you to get wealth and notoriety.
Well, it was definitely more than just lacing up his sneakers.
I mean,
He had to go through a lot more than any of us would, ever have to sacrifice to get to where he was.
I'm not saying that that's not the case, but I'm talking about the functions that he had to actually go through in order to get, or he had to just show up and do his job. And if things came up in his life that most of us would have to handle on our own, he had a whole support system to handle most of the conflicts that occurred in his life. At this point, whatever Michael Jordan has to lose, to me, is negligible. Because I think it would be very meaningful at 50 years old for him to acknowledge what was really going on in his 20s, acknowledge that he understands the impact it would have had at the time if he had spoken up, or the impact it would have had over the course of his career, both as an athlete and as a businessman, if he was more vocal. And just have the humility to acknowledge it. Even if you're not willing to be that person, acknowledge it. Because at this point, there are a lot of young athletes coming up in this game who do look up to him. And the long-term effect of being vocal is so much greater than the long-term impact of how well you dribble the ball up the court and put it in a basket, in a round metal object. I mean, it's just Muhammad Ali's legacy and impact on this world will live forever. eventually Michael Jordan's impact and legacy will fade. And people might acknowledge the financial contribution that he made, but it's not going to be he will fade like every other athlete's contribution fades, and their contribution gets overshadowed by someone else's. Look at Magic Johnson. Look at Jerry West. Look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. These men are hailed as some of the best basketball players in the world, but realistically, people are not focused on what they did on the basketball court anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I think that maybe it's going to take something like Kobe's passing or something for him to wake up and say, wow. Because clearly all this stuff was done way before Kobe had passed.
Yeah.
So maybe he needs a swift kick in the butt because, he may have to think about how will I be eulogized?
He said before this came out, people aren't going to like me after they watch this. So maybe that matters to him. I think secretly.
I don't think it matters because he came out with that statement right away. But I don't know.
I don't think he cares if people like him like a child would, but maybe Kobe's passing did. Not even maybe. We know for sure that Kobe's passing and how tragic and untimely that was, that had an impact on Michael Jordan because we could see it. And at the memorial service, the tears were literally, his face was soaking from just involuntarily crying the whole time.
And the fact that he actually came out and spoke in front of everybody. Normally he doesn't speak that much.
He doesn't do that normally. That's true. But anyway, let's wrap it up. Do you have any final thoughts?
Don't put your faith in celebrities, guys. Be the change that you want to see happen. Get involved locally. Fight for reparations. Do whatever is necessary. These people are not going to save us, and if anything, they mask the failure, and they represent something to America. It's like a decadent veil. They're there, and people think that Black America's doing great because Beyonce and Jay-Z are and Michael Jordan have billions of dollars, but in actuality, black folks are still the bottom caste of the society, especially descendants of slaves, in particular. So until you want to see some change, you got to do it yourself. We got to do it together, but we can't wait on these guys to grow a conscience, especially when you got billions of dollars in your bank account. Real hard when you got all that money.
I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all of the thoughts that you shared with us today. My final thought is that it must be incredibly challenging to grow up in this world as a black man, and no matter what economic stratus that you fall within, no matter how successful you may be in your profession, there are these extremely complicated and unique challenges faced by our people because of racism. And Michael Jordan, for all of the success that he had in his life, was a casualty to that as well. And that's very clear. I kind of felt, I'm not going to say I felt sorry for him, but it's sad to me that it's 2020, going to be 2021 soon. It's 30 years later, and he couldn't verbalize that he understood the impact that he would have had he made a different choice. I understand the choice that he made then. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I do understand, because that's a lot of pressure, and I just don't believe that I'm of the opinion that nobody should be forced into activism, because activism comes with a great deal of sacrifice, and you're exposed and vulnerable in ways when you start to really become a real advocate for people that are disadvantaged. Not everyone is cut out for that, and no one should be forced into being exposed in that way. But it takes a very small act of kind of grace and clarity to understand I have all of this because of these types of sacrifices made by the people that came before me, and I'm going to honor that in these very few moments when I'm asked, by doing the right thing. And when I don't do the right thing, I'm at least going to have the humility to acknowledge that. But as Sister Fate eloquently put it, that's not really Michael Jordan's MO. His whole branding is around him being like kind of godly, and godly in the sense that his decision within himself is final and absolute, and he doesn't question himself. He has his reasons for things, and that's how it is. At least that's how he's going to represent himself publicly. But, I still got love for Michael Jordan. This was not a session about bashing him, because I've heard so many good things about him from other people like Spike Lee, who has said for years, you guys don't really understand this man and everything that he does behind the scenes to support black folks. He's just carrying himself in a public way because he carries himself publicly this way because he feels like this is how he can put himself in the best position to help other people, and that very well may be true. But anyway, I could probably talk about any this subject or any other topic related to basketball for hours, but I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. I love you guys. I appreciate you so much, especially if you made it all the way through this video. Please, again, do not forget to subscribe. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Subscribe on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, at Grownwomangamer on all socials. And we will be back soon with another fire commentary. Peace, y'all.